Before we start this episode, we want to take a moment to remember our friend Hugh Wallace, whose warmth, wit, and passion for design left a lasting impression on everyone who had the privilege of knowing him. Hugh brought incredible energy and generosity to everything he did and meant so much to the Irish design community and to the many people who were lucky enough to work with him. In this episode, Rob Hennessy shares some memories of Hugh and the impact he had on those around him. We miss Hugh dearly and are proud to honour his lasting legacy in this episode.
I wanted to respect the history of the house. I was conscious I'm not living in a museum either, right? I wanted to kind of put my own stamp on things.
Welcome to Style Stories, brought to you by Easy Living Interiors, helping you transform your space and create the feeling of home. You love interiors, we love interiors, so let's talk about it. I'm Laura and you're very welcome to another episode of Style Stories with Easy Living Interiors. Some homes tell their stories slowly. They ask for patience, resilience and a lot of hard work. And I'm always drawn to these stories because they tend to be about much more than just design. They're about grit, creativity and the people who carry a vision through when it would be easier to just walk away. Today's episode is one of those stories. I'm joined by Rob Hennessy in Rob's beautiful home, who took on the renovation of a 170-year-old house in Passage West in Cork. What began as a solo project and a kind of bachelor experiment slowly became something much bigger. A home shaped by hard work, unexpected setbacks, bold decisions, and along the way, the beginning of a family life with partner Katie. Many people will recognise Rob from the Great House Revival, where his journey was guided by the late Hugh Wallace. Hugh was not only an extraordinary architect and TV personality, but a deeply generous presence and someone we were proud to call a friend at Easy Living Interiors. The friendship that grew between Hugh and Rob during this project in a large way shaped Rob's beautiful home, and it's impossible to tell this story without acknowledging the impact Hugh had, encouraging Rob to pause, reconsider and ultimately believe in what the house could become. In this conversation, we talk about uncovering original features, pushing through long, cold months of renovation, stretching a tight budget with creativity and care, and the reward that comes from standing in a space that you fought for. It's a story about craftsmanship, perseverance, and building a home that honours both the past and the life unfolding within it. So let's get into it. Hello, Rob. How are you? And thank you for having us.
Thank you. Welcome to my lovely home.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's beautiful. And I was telling you before we started off, I see in my future a renovation fixer-upper project. So I'm really excited to get into all of it. Yeah. Well, look, let's kick things off. So Rob, let's start at the very beginning. When you first arrived at the house in Passage West, what was it that stopped you in your tracks and you knew you needed, this was your home?
I will never ever forget it when the auctioneer came to the house first and opened up the front door and I walked in, and when I walked in the entrance hall, the first thing I saw was extremely high ceilings, which was a wow factor. And then there was this beautiful original features still there, like the original ceiling rose was still there. Some original cornicing was there. And then as we kind of walked around the house then, I remember saying to myself, like it was in a fairly derelict state and it needed a lot of work, but I completely saw past all of that. And I remember saying to myself, oh my God, Rob, whatever you do, don't show how excited you are about wanting to buy this house. It's like trying to find this usual when you go to like a car to buy your first car, you're kind of kicking the tires and you're going, oh, it's a bit of a dent there or a scratch there. You're trying to mention small things, but deep down, I knew the minute I walked through the front door, I wanted it. I knew I wanted the house. I knew I was going to put in a bid for it, regardless of engineering reports or other people looking at it first to kind of give me advice. I just knew straight away I was going to put in a bid for it, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, it's really paid off in a massive way. And the view as well, I know the view was something that really drew you in. And it's like a photo frame. It's stunning. Yeah,
and it's funny because I'm drawn to water. Like I'm originally from Tipperary. I'm a country boy, like kind of reared on a kind of a farming kind of environment. So I'm always surprised I'm so drawn to water. So when I came down as well and just the house is kind of built on a height, so it's a lovely view of the harbour. So looking over the water and I get great energy of it. So we're blessed, absolutely blessed. Yeah.
So this was the very first home you viewed there was another house that you liked and you were kicking yourself because you didn't bid on it.
Yes.
And then this was the first one that you saw when you were actively going to buy.
Correct.
So what was that process like when it came to buying a fixer-upper?
Yeah, it was mad because, like, as you said, there was another house only up the road from here that I always kind of envisioned that, I could buy that as a fixer-upper and fix it up. But I never did anything about getting a mortgage. I never done anything about it. And then all of a sudden it was off the market. And I remember kicking myself going, geez, Rob, you should have just got the mortgage and start the process. So then when this house came available, I jumped on it straight away, right? So luckily enough, my dad is kind of in the building trade all his life. So the first person I picked up the phone to was Dad. I said, look, Dad, can you come down and look at the house? I'm after reviewing it. I think it's a very doable. Yes, it's derelict. Yes, there's a lot of work to be done on it, but I'm not nervous of it. But you're the expert. Please come down and let me know. So the auctioneer gave me the keys for the weekend, for the house for the whole weekend, which was mad. I was at a trustworthy face. So Dad came down and we went through every nook and cranny. And the words of Dad was, it's an old house. I've worked on older houses and they've been in a much worse state. This is so doable. Do it. And I think he probably gave me the confidence that it could be done. So yeah, literally the following Monday morning, picked up the phone, rang the auctioneer, put in an offer. Thankfully, it was accepted. It's the first house I've ever bid on, the first offer I ever put on, and I got accepted and I got it. I know other people out there have gone through offers and offers and offers. Yeah, I was blessed really. Luckily, right place, right time.
A trial by fire.
Exactly, yeah.
First house, first bid, first renovation, a lot of firsts.
Straight in, yeah.
So the house is around 170 years old, and you did document actually the story, the history of the house on the Great House Revival as well. So what did knowing its age and its history mean to you, and how much of that history was part of what you wanted to tell in this final home?
That's a great question because I knew it was an old house. I knew there was some beautiful features in the house. I wanted to respect the history of the house and try and look after as much of the original features as I possibly could. On the opposite side then, I was conscious that I'm not living in a museum either, right? I wanted to kind of put my own stamp on things and bring in my own style and my own kind of finishing on it, but all while being respectable to the interiors itself and to the original features, and kind of, in a way, trying to figure out a blend of the mix of both kind of old and new and modern and contemporary and mid-century all at once, it's a mix of everything really.
You can see you're really paying homage here where it's modern. You've got a gorgeous kitchen and the quartz countertop, so there are modern details. But then this feature wall with the original wall, George upstairs as well. So it is a real blend. It's beautiful. You've spoken about the original owner as well, so Hugh Flanagan, who originally owned the house. So did that influence the way that you approached the work?
Yeah, it kind of did, because I loved knowing that so many hands worked on the house, both men and women worked hard. And the house is built on a fairly awkward site. It's an elevated site. So when you see the original stone wall being exposed over there, they're heavy stones. So I absolutely admire them, because I've also had to carry up insulated plasterboard and, insulation for the floor up all those steps. It was a tough slog, right? So knowing that what they would have went through is just amazing. And I'm always fascinated by that. And then I love when you kind of, so when I was kind of, putting the house back to its original kind of core to find all those kind of hidden surprises, I love looking at the original craftsmanship on it. And you could see some beautiful kind of joints that would never be seen again until you pull the ceiling down or whatever. And when you see some of the original craftsmanship, you just automatically think back to the amazing skill and hard work that went into the house. And then, I often found myself, when I was here my own digging on a cold winter's night, I often found myself thinking back to then even, it was amazing, but it made the whole process really enjoyable. And then when you're uncovering stuff, you kind of do a bit of research, what was that and why was that? And it was like an example of that was, I found a load of oyster shells, right? And I was going, what's oyster shells? So random. But then I'd done the research. They used to crush the oyster shell and put into the lime render to put onto the walls to toughen it. And I would have not known that, only for randomly finding oyster shells and then doing the research on it. That's one part of it I really loved, enjoyed doing it.
And when was the house, last lived in before you bought it?
So it was before I bought it. It was probably lived in about 6 months prior to me putting in an offer. I bought it from a lovely lady, and she had obviously moved out, and so the house was kind of left in was derelict for kind of 6 months. But at that stage, it was kind of already starting to get run down, in the living room space now. It was originally a suspended floor, so there was a lot of dry rot in that. The floors were kind of bouncing, and there was sections of the ceiling coming down. Yes, it was kind of starting to fall apart.
Yeah. Well, you came in at the perfect time.
Yes,
then.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
So what original features stood out to you? What were the ones that you knew you wanted to keep? So the ceiling rose is definitely one.
In the entrance hall was 100%. And I remember spending hours and hours up on a trolley, peeling back layers and layers of paint just to get back its original shape and kind of ornate design again. And even just kind of corbels on the wall outside as well, and doing the exact same there. The original cornices inside in the hallway as well. Even the original ceilings in the hallway. Original ceilings up on the landing, which is lath plaster, which is just, again, stunningly made. And then up on the landing as well, there's, like you mentioned the name George a second ago. That's a plaster face of somebody. We have no idea who it is. Like, it's a bearded gentleman. My two girls, Queeve and Fia, call him Pappy, which is my dad and their granddad. So they call him Pappy, which is funny, right? And then there's kind of 4 lions' heads up there. They're all still there. Even in this room here, like, it was the original cornice was here in this room. But because the ceiling had so many rotten issues, I had to take the whole thing down. But before I did that, I got in a company in to kind of take a mold of it, and so made an exact replica of the cornice. So, I mean, I could have easily have gone to a shop and bought a plastic molding and put it up there, and nobody probably would have known the difference, but I would have known the difference.
Yeah.
So I, put up the whole room in a replica of the original cornice, which I'm so glad I did.
And you did that with the windows in the girls' bedroom as well.
Yes.
You had replicas made.
Yes, all the windows in the entire house are the original windows, which I am so chuffed with. So, those windows are 200 years old as well. The glass, I always think about what has those glass windows seen over the years, like everything from steamboats going past in the harbour to massive cargo ships going past, right? So I love that I've kept all the original windows and the original single pane glass in there. And the girls' then rooms are very unique, this kind of ornate kind of fan-like feature on the outside of it. But one of them was really badly rotten and falling apart. I always said it kind of was held together by sticky tape and dreams, right? But I was so lucky to have found a really good kind of window renovation company, and they made an exact copy of that ornate. And so when the 3 windows came back, I could not tell you which was original and which was made by them, which is luckily,
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So let's get into the budget and the hard graft.
Oh, that budget.
So the house was 230k and your budget starting was 110k. And I remember you said, and how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
So
and I remember thinking to myself, how am I going to do that, right? I guess I always saw myself rolling up the sleeves and getting stuck in. So I was always going to figure out how to make my money stretch as much as I possibly could. I was also very conscious of, not going super cheap on finishings or anything like that, because I wanted a nice finish, right? So because I didn't want to put something in, only have to replace it again in 5 years' time, right? So I wanted to get the balance right in that. But rolling up my sleeves was a must at the time, and I absolutely loved that process. I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I did, like had blisters on my hands, bleeding hands. I loved it. I loved every bit of it, Laura. It was amazing. And by doing that, then that kind of helped my budget stretched out. Before it all started, I went to a construction company to potentially come in and do it for me. And they gave me a quote of 350,000 to do the house. And that wasn't including contingency, wasn't including outside landscaping, any of that. Again, I bought the house on my own, the mortgage on my own. I didn't have the budget to pay for a mortgage and pay for that level of renovation. So it was me, Rob, and a shovel and a bucket and a pick. And
a dream.
And a dream. Exactly. So, and off I went, right? Yeah, it's the best decision I've ever did. And it's funny too, even though I'm sitting in this finished kitchen now, right? But there's times I miss digging the floor. I found it so therapeutic. I found it so relaxing. Yeah, it was amazing.
You're not the first person that we've had on this podcast to talk about how therapeutic demolition is.
Yeah.
Just knocking a wall.
Just knocking a wall, yeah.
There's always that sense of when you knock your first wall, you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
And I know Hugh actually talked a lot about the engineering of the arch that was in the wall as well, and how know when to knock and when not to knock.
Yeah.
But what was the first thing that you did knock? It was the kitchen wall.
It was the kitchen wall, exactly. So I had done kind of a pre-look, so I had kind of stripped back the very top of it, and I was able to kind of put my hand and sit on top of the wall. So I knew straight away then it wasn't load bearing. And then when we kind of took the plaster down on either side of it, I knew then it was just single brick. So I said, okay, this is doable. I can take down this wall myself. And so I stripped down the plaster on either side, and it was this beautiful yellow brick left behind, and then sledgehammer time, and out it came. And I'll never forget it. I always think of that scene of Castaway where Tom Hanks' character, he lights a fire on the beach for the first time, and he's like, hitting himself in the chest, go, look what I've done, look what I've done. So I was like that, look what I've done, I can't believe I knocked down the wall all by myself. And I remember being so proud. And anytime I ever done any work, that evening I would bring my dinner down here in the rubble, sit on a piece of timber or whatever, and just look at the work I'd done. And it's such a buzz off it.
Yeah.
And it used to give me such energy to get stuck into the next project of it or the next task of it. And oh my God, it became addictive, to be honest with you. It was an addictive thing to do. Like, yeah.
And let's talk about layouts.
Yeah.
So your original plan wasn't to knock that wall per se. So you had gone to an architect company who had given you a layout, which is what you came into the show planning. Yeah. And so let's talk about how, I suppose, with a period property, there's a lot of seeing the potential involved. Yeah. And so a big thing for you was you wanted light to carry through this whole space. Exactly. So can you talk about the layout that you had kind of planned on doing and then how you ultimately came back to this layout plan?
Exactly. My first house, my first anything, first renovation, I went to an architect and they kind of designed the layout for me, right? But then they kind of provided like 3D renderings and these amazing drawings. And I was just like sucked into this thing and kind of, in a way, kind of tunnel visioned a bit on it. Like where we are now was going to be a mezzanine, was going to be really high mezzanine area with big high floor to roof windows. Like I already have high ceilings here, but I just got caught up in the moment of it, right? But when the amazing Hugh then came in, like he could see my love for the house the way it was. He could see the way I loved all the original features. And he just said, just leave it as the original layout, the layout that's on the house, and just kind of stick to that. And what was amazing as well was, like, even though I'd fallen in love with these beautiful renderings of what the house could look like, there was something tickling at the back of my mind and it just wasn't right. In a way, Hugh kind of settled me. And that's why I jumped on it straight away. I jumped on it, yep, we're doing it. Like, it makes 100% sense and it's going to make it a lot cheaper for me and it's going to help my budget now stretch a lot further in the house. Like.
And I think as well, like the fundamentals of design are usually, so Hugh always had such an appreciation for classical design details. And so your house would be Georgian, neoclassical, right? Yeah. The house was built in the way that it, I think, makes sense. This layout makes sense. Yeah. And while modern details and adding mezzanines have their place, the house will tell you, it dictates itself in a kind of way, right?
100%. And it's funny you say that because before I even picked up a shovel, I lived in the house here for like 6 months. Yeah. And I'd done nothing. I just lived in the house. Like I was trying to figure out, do I have my kitchen in another room or do I have it in this room? Where would I have the main bedroom? Where would the other bedrooms be? And I was getting a feel of where the light was coming in. I was getting a sense of the building. In a way, the building was really speaking to me, right?
Yes, that's what I was trying to say without sounding crazy.
Yeah, exactly. But it's true, though. It does speak to you. And it's in the show a lot. But I fell in love with the building. I fell in love with each room. I fell in love with the original features. I fell in love with the high ceiling. So then I had to figure out how I would make the layout work best for me. And even though I kind of went through that experience of getting kind of a real kind of maybe too much of a modern kind of layout initially, I think that was a journey I had to go on. Yep. And it was a learning for me and it was something I learned from. But I was glad I took the feedback on board from Hugh and took his suggestion on board. I was so happy to do that.
And let's talk about the schlep of it all. So you lived in the upstairs bathroom.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Oh, man.
Because I think this is going to inspire a lot of people who are like, I want to do a renovation, but like, how am I going to do it? Yeah. So tell us your experience.
Look, I bought the house initially on my own. I couldn't afford to pay for rent and a mortgage at the same time. So needs be, you move into the house, right? And, there was an original bit of a kitchen down here with a single little oven and 4 little kind of stove rings on it. But this is the first room that I gutted back. So very quickly, I had no kitchen. So I had to kind of figure out, okay, what am I going to do? So I remember I went over to a local electrical store and I bought like a little kind of electric camping stove type thing. And I bought an air fryer, which is like an oven as such. And then kind of went up into the main bathroom at the time, which was a nice, fine, big room. And like one half was a little living room space. I had a kind of a dining table. My camping stove was on top of that. My little air fryer was on top of that as well. And that's how I survived, right? And like, my bathtub was just literally over here beside it. The toilet was here, the sink was here. And the kitchen and living room with a bit of a TV was there as well. And do you know what? I look back at those memories now and they're one of my favorite memories of like going through that and kind of where to live and like where you're going to sleep and where you're going to cook and where you're going to go to have a wash and all that kind of stuff. So it was mad. But even from that room, we ended up then having a kitchen in what is now Cuiva and Fia's bedroom. And then even when we started gutting upstairs, at one stage, myself and Katie, we had her bed on the floor behind me here. And we used to sleep in here every night. Quiva was in a little crib beside us. And upstairs was a building site, right? You just made do. You figured it out. And even in the sitting room, the bed was in the sitting room one side. Like, we probably slept in every single room in the house. Exactly. You just make it happen, like, you know. But again, it's one of my favorite memories of the whole experience. Like, yeah.
So your dad is a builder as well.
Yeah.
Now, we were in lockdown then during the real nitty-gritty of the work.
Yeah.
So how was it kind of managing all of that?
Yeah, that was tough, really tough, because I'm so lucky Dad has been in the building trade all his life now. He's retired since. He's still busy coming down and helping me down here. I literally got the keys in, say, September. I first started doing the first part of the renovation kind of in early spring 2020, which is exactly when COVID lockdown started kind of happening, right? You know, I used to do a video call every night with Dad. He would tell me what I needed to do or what I needed to dig and so on. And then there was a kind of a bit of a lift on restrictions, you might remember, between the first and second one. Dad came down, we kind of done measurements. Lockdown 2 happened, but we had a lot of groundwork done in terms of measurements and setting off levels for the floor. Back to digging I went again. Like, so it was really a surreal moment on it, right? But then there's part of me that kind of enjoyed that, because it was me on my own in the house. It was me digging up and uncovering things. It was me figuring out things. And like, I could tell you exactly where every wire, where every pipe is in the house, because I was so involved in it. Even though as bad and all that COVID was, and it was tough for everybody, but I was quite lucky it kind of happened in there, because it allowed me the time to kind of strip everything back and get stuck into it.
And it was described in the show as a man versus house battle.
Yeah.
Was there ever a moment where you were like, okay, this is just too much? Did your kind of determination ever falter at any point?
No, it flickered once. I must admit it did. That one time was, I had finished kind of stripping back in the kind of the sitting room area, right? The following morning I came down and there was mushrooms growing on the wall. I was going, what? How does this even happen, right? So I went on a little bit of research and I discovered it was wet rot, right? And I could see all the kind of the fungus kind of growing along the wall, right? So then I kind of done more research on how to treat it and how to get treated. And, you know, it was like crazy money, like 5,000-6,000 euro to fix this issue, right? And at that stage, my budget was coming to an end and I was trying to figure out how to pay for the floor and how to pay for the kitchen. And having this extra 5,000 euro potential bill coming in that was unforeseen, it threw me off. And I remember getting very emotional about it, right? And it's such a small thing to get emotional about, but it was the one thing that kind of threw me off my kind of positivity on it, right? But luckily enough, I was up an Instagram page kind of tracking my journey up the renovation, and I kind of went up and I took a story of it, and a follower kind of sent me, I had the same thing. My brother-in-law works at a company, they sell various chemicals that will treat this, and I got onto them to send it over, and 150 euro later, I had it dealt with myself, like, and it had never come back since, like, and I figured it out, like, you know.
I'll be honest, the last place I lived had mushrooms as well. And you know what? When they came, I was terrified. I was like, what is that?
Yes.
Because it's in the bathroom. I was like, what is it?
Yeah.
And I thought it was like some sort of weird alien infestation. And my boyfriend was like, okay, calm down. Look, we're just going to Google this now. And he took a picture into ChatGPT, mushrooms. And I was like, okay, feel a lot calmer. So I actually went through what you went through, but it wasn't my own home that I'd put so much time and money into. So it's different.
Yeah, and it was a bit of a worry as well, because I was thinking, is there spores? Am I going to be breathing in bad stuff here? And so that's why I wanted to get it treated. And I didn't want to kind of cover it up and say nothing and pretend nothing happened, because it would eventually come back. So I wanted to deal with it.
And that's the thing. You've really, like, there's good bones here now.
Yes.
This house can, like, it's 170 now, but like there's more than another 170 here. And now you're part of that history as well. And people in the future, through generations, and what you're going to pass on to your family. Everyone can look back at that and be like, okay, so it was Hugh Flanagan and then it was Rob and Katie, and there's just such a gorgeous legacy
I love that.
In it. So let's go beneath the surface now. So we found mushrooms under the surface. You also had dry rot, you had unstable joists, the rotting bay window frame. So the windows did have to come out for a time. So when the list kept growing and growing and growing, what was it that kind of kept you going?
Actually, it was mad. I often look back at the show every now and again as well to kind of look at the journey of it. And like, nothing really, apart from that mushroom episode, nothing fazed me. Like, and I just kind of took one day at a time. Like, I'm a firm believer of there's the controllables and the non-controllables, right? So you can control what you can control and you can sort out. But you know that you're going to get a curveball thrown at you. And because you know that, when it does happen, it doesn't have a massive effect on you. You just go, okay, how do we fix it? What's the workaround here? Do we take it out? Do we replace it? Do we fix it in situ? We just figure out a solution and you just figure it out. And it's very easy to get stressed about all these small little things. But if I did that, I probably would have walked away from the house. But because I was enjoying the process so much, I never let it faze me. And I just enjoyed it. So when I was dealing with kind of rotten joists or like bouncing floors or whatever, or ceilings coming down by itself, I went, yeah, okay, let's figure it out, the solution. And that was always been my mantra. And then kind of you fix it and then you kind of move on to the next issue and the next problem and you fix that and you move on and before you know it's all sorted.
And I'm sure a lot of that as well comes from the fact that you did a lot of it yourself. So you're learning on the job, literally. Yes. So now you're building up experience and what would have been a huge challenge and barrier to you before. And now you're like, well, I can deal with this. Yeah, exactly. I can do it all.
Exactly.
So digging out the floors then took 8 weeks longer than you expected.
Yeah.
Were you always such a patient person, or did this tell you that about yourself?
I like to think I'm a patient person, right? I think there's probably certain things that probably would kind of go, oh, come on, let's get it going. Like I hate being late to things, as an example, right? That drives me mad. I like to be early. I'd rather be 10 minutes early than 10 minutes late. It's just me, right? But when it came to the digging, it was very therapeutic, but it just took forever to do, right? And the reason it took forever was because I couldn't get a mini digger up here. Like I had to dig it by hand. So I had to pick a shovel and 10 gator buckets, which were all hit down, put into the gator bucket, and then all had to be carried down to a skip.
You had 11 skips, I think you said.
And at the time, I've probably doubled that now, since. And I will never forget this. So at the time, for the floor alone, I filled 4 14-yard skips, right? And I remember the skip company ringing me going, like, your skips are very heavy. Like, each skip was weighing 22 tons.
Wow.
Times 4, that's 88 tons of just floor I dug up by hand and carried out by hand into the skip on my own. So that's why it took 8 weeks longer than that. So it was a heavy slog. But it was mad. This room was the toughest room. The hall and the sitting room was already nearly at the level I wanted to be at anyway. So it was a much easier lift. So I'm glad I started at this room, because if I just started the other room and then come into this room, I'd have been broken, because I would have thought it's going to be a breeze. And
I think there's a lesson in that too for anyone listening who's thinking about doing a renovation, because I suppose you need to accept that things are going to take long.
Yeah.
And then you need to look at, right, what are the rooms that I need? What are the needs? So kitchen, living space, all of that. You started that first and then moved into the other spaces and slept in every bedroom in the house on the way in between. Yeah. So renovating through a freezing winter as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's relentless.
Yes.
So what were your life hacks to keep going? Like, did you have a great playlist? Was there something great on TV you were watching? Like, what was your downtime like?
I actually had no downtime. It was all house, and there was no holidays. I always call it holiday like Costa della House. Was my holidays.
Well, I mean, sea views. So
exactly,
there you go.
It worked. Exactly, right? I guess like those winter months were freezing, and even into the kind of January, February months as well was so cold. I'll never forget. Like I was also working a day job, and I was working from home because with COVID, we're all working from home. And I remember trying to type on a keyboard and I couldn't even press. My hands were so cold. And this is when I was working on my day job, right? And I couldn't even press the keyboard. So I had to buy a little storage heater that was kind of sitting in between my legs to trying to keep me warm. And even, I'll never forget it, when the window was taken out behind us, there was kind of plywood put up. It was like this little crack in between the frame and the plywood. And this wind used to come in and it would cut you in half. And it was so cold, right? But in relation to the motivation, it was funny. I actually started off, like I mentioned already, kind of an Instagram page that kind of tracked my journey. I used to love doing the stories and kind of talking, and people used to be sending me messages from all over the world saying, oh my God, how are you doing this? And this is great. And I used to do these kind of playlists on my stories, and people used to send me suggestions, and that's what kind of gave me the motivation. And then, but I mentioned earlier, I used to get a massive buzz out of doing a hard day's graft. Coming down, you're aching, you're sore all over, you're just covered in mud, and then sitting down and looking what you've done. And I used to get such a lift and a buzz off it. And then I'd be going, right, this is what I'm doing tomorrow, let's do it tomorrow straight away. So every single weekend I was walking down the stairs, coming into the room here to dig at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then I was putting down the shovel at 8 o'clock at night type thing, and stopping just for a quick bite to eat, and then back into it again. And this was Saturday and Sunday every single weekend. During my lunch breaks in work, I used to run down. I'd have, chop up the floor, have filled 10 buckets, go back up. I used to be kind of have a clean shirt from here up. My pants was filthy. I was on video conferences. It was like that kind of...
Business on the top, party.
Party at the bottom.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then every evening after work, straight into it again. But that was my life for months and months and months. And I don't regret it. I loved it. But then also by doing that as well, I wasn't going out much or partying much. Well, I couldn't really with lockdown, but when that lifted... So I was saving money by not going out, so I was able to put it back into the house in the renovation.
Appearing on the Great House Revival.
Yeah.
What, I suppose, did Hugh bring for you as part of that? So let's talk about, in the show, it was documented when you guys were working together on the coving.
Yeah.
And just doing the schlep together.
Yeah, exactly. I loved Hugh. I'll never forget meeting him for the first time. And I was so nervous. The first day of shooting, there's a director and there's producers and there's sound engineers and there's cameramen and then there's Hugh and there's drone operators. I was going, oh my God, this is so overwhelming. And I remember literally before the cameras were in action or whatever went online, I remember Hugh looked at me and gave me a little wink and it kind of just settled me. It was unbelievable, just settled me. The camera was kind of over his shoulder. So he gave me a wink and it kind of just completely settled me. And from that moment on, and this is the first day I knew I was going to get on with him. You see him on the telly, you see him on other episodes of the Great House Revival, Home of the Year, Bungalow Bliss. He'd done all these amazing shows. So you kind of had him up on a really high pedestal. And they always say, never meet your heroes. And he was a hero. And when I met him, I was so glad I had him in my life. He was so helpful and so funny, and his energy used to come into the house every time. I used to love having him over. And that example that you were just kind of talking about, I'll never forget that we were up on a kind of a trolley and we're kind of cleaning off the old paint off the cornice in the hallway. And we got some lovely shots on it and chatting away and kind of talking about different things. And next thing, the director felt, we got enough of shots there. And they went off for their lunch. And myself and Hugh for another half hour were still on the trolley chatting away and kind of continue with the clean off the paint. And then we're even talking about the type of paint I should be putting into the house. And he was recommending with these old buildings, they could go for a matte finish because it hides all the kind of the crooked lines and all that kind of stuff. And that was the day then he gave me the idea to paint the sitting room, that kind of brim jal on the ceiling. Yes. That was the day he told me to do that. He was amazing. And even on days he wasn't here, he was phoning me and texting me saying I was getting on. Even when the show had aired, after the show had gone aired, he still came down, visited me. He used to always send other people who were kind of in the beginning of a renovation themselves down to me as well, so they could see it can be done, which I used to love that because that was only a compliment in itself. Hugh and Martin were here for dinner one evening and he was involved with some building with his Douglas and Wallace architecture firm. They were building a house over in Cove. He used to be sending me photos of the house from the other side of the harbour. He was a true friend. He was amazing.
I remember at the end of the episode, he said that he was jealous of this house. And he said, if you put any magnolia in this house, I'm never coming to visit you. He was such a witty, hilarious person.
Yeah. And I'll never forget, I have one very funny story of it, about that kind of archway that he was going to talk to me about, that scene, about not taking down that arch, right, up over the range. So originally we were going to be up in a trolley, or I was going to be up in a trolley and I was going to or scaffolding, and I was going to kind of get down and greet him as he walked in. But the scaffolding is kind of on very uneven ground. I just dug it, so it was very uneven. So as I was coming down off the scaffolding, I nearly fell, right? So Hugh then was kind of coming in. He said, oh my, I won't curse, but he went, oh my God. He was trying to make a beeline to catch me as I was falling down, right? But he was so nice, right?
And that isn't the first time you nearly caused a terrible injury to yourself. The fire upstairs, you nearly went to A&E from the fire and you were in Katie's bedroom. I
will never forget that, right? So you can imagine, right? You're in this room, right? They take the fireplace out so we can start stripping the wall back to get ready for it. A camera is on you, so you're kind of working away. I never taken out a fireplace before. I didn't know what was going on. So I knew that it was kind of embedded in kind of the render on the wall. So I kind of pared the render back. But the fireplace wasn't coming out. I was going, oh my God, what's going on? Then I realized then it was kind of a metal cable kind of holding it inside it. So I got a snips. Went on my back, kind of wriggled into the fireplace and snipped the cable. And as I did that, the fireplace, and it was a really heavy kind of, not cast iron, but a very heavy metal fireplace, was just starting to fall, right? And my legs I'm flat on my back, looking up at the fireplace going, right? So next thing, I managed to I kicked my legs up in the air and I kind of put my hand up and I caught it as it was falling. So then trying to kind of get out from lying on my back to try and to stop the fireplace from falling. And if you actually look at the show, you see a hand coming in. That's the director's hand coming in, Maya, coming in to stop her from falling. It wasn't me just kind of stopped it at the end. It was Maya's hand kind of came in and stopped it. I kind of stopped the original part of it going, but then Maya came in and kind of stopped it for me. And Katie was like heavily pregnant with Quiva at the time. And so Katie was kind of downstairs. She couldn't be really near dust. So we brought her up to kind of shoot the scene. I remember saying to her, you could be pushing a buggy and a wheelchair around at the same time.
Yeah.
And the two of us were bent over laughing at the moment. Like, it was kind of a nervous laugh because that could have actually have happened. Yeah, it was a pretty scary moment. But again, something I look back on and laugh at.
Exactly. That's it. And you can see that in you. Like, you're clearly just a really funny, positive person. Yeah. So the house began as you were single. And then during the renovation, you met Katie. And you knew each other from Tipperary as well. You were old friends. Yeah. So how did, I suppose, your approach to the project change once you'd met Katie?
Yeah, it was mad because when I first bought the house, I always saw myself, even though I moved in as a bachelor, right, or a single guy, I always saw myself as raising a family here, right?
Yeah.
And I always saw myself meeting somebody and they would live in with me here and then we would raise a family. I always saw it, right? But then, like, I knew Katie for like 10 years before we actually got together. And I know Katie's sister actually longer than Katie. I worked with Katie's sister and I was actually at Anne-Marie's wedding when I was introduced to Katie for the first time, right? And that's where I first met Katie. Like, nothing ever happened. Timing wasn't there for either one of us, so nothing ever happened. I'd always ask Anne-Marie, oh, how's Katie doing and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, one day in work, like, I was chatting away to Anne-Marie and next thing, all of a sudden, Anne-Marie was asking, you know, like, am I dating anybody? I said, no. And he goes, look, here's Katie's number. Text her, see what happens. And then we kind of, you know, one thing led to another and it became a relationship, which was lovely. So Katie moved down then and, like, she moved into a building site, a freezing cold building site. It was so cold. And I remember thinking afterwards going, oh my God, this lady is definitely a keeper, because if she's willing to move into a building site that's freezing cold, that has a lot of work to do in it, I knew I was onto a winner straight away, right? And I know I joked in the show, but I was going, I hope she can lift a shovel or use a shovel or something. I think I said, like, God love her, like, you know. But, like, what's great though, having Katie in the house as part of it then, I was able to kind of bounce ideas off.
Yeah.
Like, there's times I often second guess myself sometimes, but it was great to kind of bounce my thought process off with Katie. I'm a very visual guy as well, so Katie would always help me to do a bit of research and stuff like that. Like, so when it came to making decisions on colour of the kitchen units, and I had an idea what I wanted, but then being able to bounce that off Katie was brilliant. Even our bedroom, Katie picked that complete colour scheme in our bedroom as an example, and it's phenomenal finishing on it. So yeah, it's great. I think we worked very, very well together.
Yeah, and then of course you ended up with the real deadline that came in when you found out that you were pregnant with Quiva.
Yes.
And when you announced on the show you were 12 weeks, so you had 6 months.
Yeah.
And I'm watching this show and I'm going, how are they going to do this?
Yeah.
And then the reveal was in January 2021.
Yeah.
So it really just took off. So what were those few rush months like?
Yeah, it was a bit stressy. It was a bit
understatement of the century.
Exactly. Like, you always hear of when near the end of a pregnancy, like, ladies would get into kind of this kind of nesting mode, right? So poor Katie was in this nesting mode and she'd be kind of dusting things down, and then she'd go back and it'd be full of dust later on because the house is a building site. There was loads of work going on still. But then there was also the added pressure of trying to, like, I was very conscious. I was very aware of bringing my daughter home. And I wanted, not sterile, but I wanted a clean environment for her to be safe and warm and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I knew we had to kind of give it socks to get downstairs done. And I knew once we downstairs done, it's easy to put up dust sheets. It's easy kind of bring a bed down here that we'd sleep down here instead. Yeah, we worked really, really hard. And I'll never forget it. So Quiva was born in September 2021. She was born. So, like, at that stage, we downstairs done. We had a kitchen in place. The sitting room was done as well. Our bed was now in what is now the sitting room, but upstairs was like building site. So we had to kind of, you know, hit the ground running with that as fast as possible. In the meantime, then we also had the final shooting day taking place in the following January. So Quiva arrived home in kind of say October, and then the following January, the house had to be somewhat finished, right? So the pressure was on. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that Christmas working around the clock in the house, morning, noon and night. And thank God I had some amazing friends and family come over till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning painting the rooms for me to help me get it done in time. It was nice to look back on it now, but at the time it was a bit stressful.
Yeah. Okay, so by January 2022 then you were finished. And let's just talk about the interior of it all because it's amazing. The paint colours, the ceiling in the living room. I said you clearly created the trend of colour capping anyway.
Thank you, yeah.
And the colour choices. So how did you tackle then the furnishing and the finishes?
Yeah, and actually that's something I used to really kind of worry about because I wanted to get it right, you know. But I wanted to have my own style in it, but have it functional as well, right? And so even here in the kitchen, right? So I knew I wanted a green kitchen, but I didn't know what green I was going to use or anything like that. So I remember I went up to Savvy Kitchens and they kind of gave me kind of these small little squares of kind of kitchen colours. I brought one or two of them back home here. I was going, God, I'm not sure. It was very hard to decide. But then I kind of narrowed down a colour that I was going to go with, green smoke. And I knew I was going to go with that. And then I knew so then I went on to, because I knew the green smoke was like a Farm Ball colour. So I went onto the Farm Ball website and I saw what other colours then work with green smoke. And I saw shaded white for the walls as an example. So then I got this big not massive, but a kind of a piece of kind of plywood and I primed it. And then I bought like test pots. I painted the kitchen in it. I painted the wall on it. I painted the ceiling colour on it. And I used to carry it around the room here to see what way different lights would reflect off it and see how it would look. And I knew straight away, this colour scheme for this, done. Next room. And that's how I kind of did it. I never kind of envisioned kind of doing, okay, now we have to flow from this into the next room, That was never, it kind of happened naturally, the way the colours kind of mix in with each other anyway. But that was never a conscious decision. It just happened naturally, right? And how we kind of went about the colours was, again, I used to go on to the kind of, say, the Farm Ball social pages. I would see a colour, we would then go, yeah, we like that colour. And then we might buy, a test paint on it, walk it around the room, yeah, we like that. And then we would find out what other colours work with it. And then that's how we done it. That's how we kind of figured out the colours. And then as for the finishes then, like, you know, whilst I kind of went for a kind of contemporary kind of kitchen finish, kind of slim shaker style, I still have an old dresser table down at the room that's 200 years old that's in the same room because I wanted to kind of bring the old and the new together and then all while working well with the high ceilings and the cornice and the ceiling rows and making it all kind of work well. I think it's worked well so far.
Yeah, and it feels really collected and curated because like that you've got your 200-year-old chest and then you've got Cora Murphy art upstairs and you've got Lime Wash from Anna who obviously has her own venture now, Maison Anna B, which is brilliant. So it's like, and I know Hugh took you to a home that's up by UCC in the episode and it was kind of an inspiration of the Chesterfield sofas and how you can really upcycle and give something a new lease of life. So what would you say about people who were into kind of, who want to go salvage and who want to like kind of find hidden gems?
Do it.
Just do it. Exactly.
It's amazing. Like you don't realize until you actually look into it what's out there. Like there's amazing little kind of architectural yards, like the Kilkenny architecture. They have everything from outdoor garden furniture to indoor kind of old, everything, like original floorboards, some furniture pieces. There's Mac warehouses up in Dublin. So there's amazing pieces you can get that you can bring. But for me then, I didn't want to overkill it either. I didn't want to kind of go OTT with bringing all old furniture in. So I was trying to get the balance right in that. But if you're thinking about, do I bring it? Do it. You
just
won't
do
regret.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Even the process of trying to find things, it's so fun. And you actually get obsessed with the auction sites and putting bids on different things. And it's good fun.
So at the end of the episode, Katie said, everyone needs a Rob in their corner.
Yeah.
And you said how much you needed Katie for this as well. And it really strengthened your relationship.
Yeah.
So what did renovating together kind of do for your relationship?
That's actually a great question. We had just started kind of dating and then lockdown started happening. So then we started doing a lot of virtual dates. Like Katie was still living in Thurles, I was down here. But then she moved in. I remember she kind of moved down for like a couple of weeks during a lockdown because she couldn't work. So she moved in here and we just got on so well from the get-go. And then, as I said earlier on, when she moved into a building site, I knew I was onto a winner then, right? But we had such good fun. We laughed our way through it, so many different things. And any mishaps that happened, we just got on with it. We just figured stuff out together. We worked well together in kind of deciding colours. Now, listen, there was always debates as well about different finishes and different things. And she'd have her idea and I'd have my idea. And we'd end up having a bit of a compromise at the end, or one of us might win or whatever the case may be. But we always agreed to it. And by going through this journey together, I think it worked really well for us. And this made us grow closer and closer and closer. I often look back at that whole journey of getting the house, meeting Katie for the first time, having Quiva, it was an amazing journey.
Aww. Finally, for anyone listening who feels limited by budget or intimidated by an old house, what's your just number one golden piece of advice?
I knew you'd ask that, right? So I'm trying to think of different things I could say, right? I probably have a couple of pieces of advice to do, right? So one is, don't doubt your own ability. I didn't know I could knock down a wall, but then I knocked down a wall, right? There's loads of YouTube videos out there. There's loads of different things out there that you can learn off and decide on how to do different things. Like, I painted all this house. Like, picking colours. I always remember thinking, if I don't like the colour, I can just paint over it again. It's not the end of the world here, right? So it's okay to make mistakes, right? And one big piece of advice I give to everybody is trust your gut. The amount of times that I would decide on something and then I would second guess myself and I would go, oh my God, am I sure about this? Only for me end up to go full circle and go back to what I originally had thought I was going to do. So, like, trust your gut. Now, maybe that was a journey I had to go on myself to help me get to the decision. Yeah, if you just trust your gut, you can do it, right? But then also always, and this is the most important thing, is it's know when to bring the experts in. Yes, I could knock down a wall. Yes, I could put a ceiling down. Yes, I can take render off a wall. But can I put render back on a wall? No, I can't. So I could try it, but I could spend hours doing it. So it's when, I need to get plaster in. So it's to know when you can bring in the experts to help you get those finishes that you want then.
And follow Rob on Instagram.
Obviously. You know, loads of tips there.
Obviously. Okay, so time for a quick fire round.
Yes.
What does the feeling of home mean to you?
Home, for me, family.
Love.
Yeah, love and family, absolutely. I saw it as a family home, and now it is a family home.
What is your favourite song at the moment?
Yeah, I'm kind of listening to a lot of kind of Oasis essentials at the moment and absolutely loving them. And listen, kind of Roll With It and Wonderwall.
And what are you watching on TV at the moment?
At the moment, I'm actually watching Dune 1 and Dune 2. It's the movie. It's Dune 3 is coming out soon from a film point of view. And
what's your favourite cafe in Cork?
So, would you believe I'm not
a
big coffee, tea drinker, right? But restaurant-wise, we love going to the Bosun, which is just down here in Monkstown beside us. It's kind of, they always have fresh fish of the day.
And what's your favourite holiday destination?
Right now it's been Casa de la House, right? It's been all house. But no, like, we've gone away from kind of staycation weekends. Like, down Killarney is definitely our go-to spot for myself and Katie and the kids.
Oh, well, Rob, thank you so much. That was so interesting to hear from you, and so much that listeners can take advice from, whether it's a renovation or a complete new build. You're an inspiration, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you for joining us on Style Stories with Easy Living Interiors. You can hear all the news, including links to more information, in the description area of this podcast. Please share our show with a friend who might enjoy it. Simply search Style Stories with Easy Living Interiors on Apple, Spotify or YouTube. This podcast is produced by justpod.io for Easy Living Interiors.